let's get into my base routine. First, I just started with bronzer. This time I'm starting off with like an orange base bronzer just to give that like tan golden look, and then I'm gonna build up with a darker bronzer. So I'm just going on my cheekbones, carving out my nose bridge, and I'm doing that first, and then I'm going to go in with highlighter after. But I feel like building up this foundation is really good, like building up the bronzer. So kind of guides where I highlight and has the highlight as something to blend into, and also this kind of makes me feel like my makeup is coming together when I do my bronzer first as opposed to doing my highlight first. I don't know, it's giving skin like essentially. Also that depends on like what bronzer you use. The bronzer that I'm using is pretty natural. So now I'm going in with the darker bronzer and blending my nose bronzer into my nose, into my brows. And then I'm carving out the cheekbones and connecting that to my jaw. You don't have to do this. I just decided to do my makeup like that today. But I was blending the bronzer into my eyebrows because I like the way that looks. I like my front and my brows to look diffused, which is why I really didn't fold them in that much. And then I go into the forehead and bring that in to the center of my forehead. I'm doing it really messily now because I'm just going to go in with highlighter and clean that up anyways, so it kind of really doesn't matter. But I'm blending my cheekbones upwards, and now I'm going in and using a blending brush. I think this is like a foundation brush, but it blends really well, and I'm just blending that in to my skin because I want to blend all of this before I go in with highlighter. And you can already see it already did something. Even though I don't have highlighter, the bronzer is already building that foundation to the makeup look. So next, I'm going to go in with highlighter. I pretty much go in with like different shades, but this is the darkest shade I'm going to use, and I start with that for coverage, and then I use a lighter shade for bringing. So I'm going in with this shade and just putting the concealer to highlight. I find that when I go in with bronzer first, I use a lot less concealer, which is good because the bronzer that I'm using comes in a tub and the concealer comes in a tube, and it's not that much concealer compared to bronzer, so that helps a lot because I already have most of my face covered. So I can just go in with a dollop of concealer, and that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm highlighting my nose, under eye, cupid's bow, around my mouth, and my chin. Then I'm going in with a brighter concealer in the middle under my eye, and I'm pretty much just going to keep that in my under eye. And when you're doing your makeup, I just like to check to see if everything looks the way that I want it to. And now I'm going in, I'm blending out my chin. I usually try to do that, blend everything else besides my under eye so that my under eye can sit the longest. If you're like me and you don't really have time when you're doing your makeup or the patience to like just let all of your concealer sit, you can do this, just blend everything else but your under eyes, so your under eyes will be sitting the longest so they get the most coverage. but I'm pretty much just taking my time blending everything else out just to give my under eyes time to sit and build up that coverage. And I'm trying to blend everything into the base that I already created with my bronzer. And I find that my concealer melts easier into my skin because the bronzer is already there, so it has product to melt into. Then going in and blending out my nose highlight. I like doing my nose highlight like this because it creates like a cute little contour for me. I feel like it's what works for my nose, and honestly that's really what makeup is about, doing what works for you. I feel like this is the way that suits my nose and makes it look like the way that I want it to look. I kind of don't blend out that dot part a lot because I don't want it to spread, so I'm just tapping it. Then starting at the edge of my under eye, and I'm not blending it all the way, I'm kind of blending the edges first, again giving it more time to settle in and build up that coverage. And also I like to set my under eyes right away with powder because it just looks flawless when you do that. So I blend out the bottom and then work my way into the top, and that's what I'm doing right now. Just putting that powder on and pressing it into my skin. And I'm going in and I'm really pressing that powder in. And I'm not baking at this point, I'm just setting my face with a powder. I like to use a really nice blurry powder. Right now I'm using the Marc Jacobs. I like that one a lot, but the e.l.f. one is pretty good. It's just like any powder that's like a blurring powder or like a smoothing powder. That's what I personally like to use. And then I'm going in and just with some bronzer, but in powder form, and I'm using that as a bronzer, but also I'm not going to be putting blush on in this look, so I would say that it counts as a blush bronzer combo. And I'm just doing that to tone down the highlight, and that's going to blend really nicely on top of the powder that I have under my eye, and also going in and setting the bronzer that I put on my face in the beginning. And then I'm going to go in with a fluffy brush and also set the bronzer that's on my nose bridge, and I'm keeping that to like the top, mostly building that up, and then I'm gonna blend it out, but really building that at the front of my brow for that diffused look. Then I'm going in and I'm going to clean up that powder and enhance the highlight on my nose with some loose powder. I like going in with the powder first because if I do too much, then I can just go in with loose powder and it'll fix it, you know what I mean? So I'm just setting all those places that I highlighted on my nose. And at this part, I'm like, I can tell if my makeup's gonna be good. I feel like when you have the powder down, loose powder, you can tell if your makeup's gonna be good or not. So now I'm just going and using a face powder that matches my skin tone and adding coverage to like the bottom of my chin. I don't really put makeup there all the time. If I'm going out, sometimes I'll put like foundation there, but usually I don't. I usually focus the coverage at the center of my face, and I'm going in and I'm blending everything together. So it doesn't look so harsh. The nose contour, nose bronzing and everything, just focusing where the highlight and the bronzer meets and kind of diffusing it. You see it's kind of softening everything, and that's such an important step when you're doing your makeup. Kind of like, it doesn't matter how like everything looks, but if you have a set that can blend everything together and soften it, then that helps a lot. And I really take my time with this, and I like to use like a fluffier big brush when I'm doing that, because I'm not trying to actually like put a ton of product on. I'm just trying to blend the product that's already on my face. Oh, and also for this look, I didn't show this part, but I cleaned up my brows, and I didn't really put anything on my eyes. I just use my regular eyelid pigmentation as my eyeshadow, and it always eats. Now I'm going in with a pressed powder. It's just a white powder, and I'm trying to bring that brightness back to my under eye and the places that I have highlighted. Sometimes I do this with like a translucent loose powder too, just to add that brightness if it gets taken away. And then obviously the lashes are lashing, so I have to build up my lower lashes so it kind of like matches. It's not gonna look exactly the same, but you know, give them some attention too. And I like when I do my lower lashes and I do it like close enough, and it kind of creates like a waterline effect. I think I'm using the MAC Stack. It's really good for lower lashes because I feel like I don't have any lashes and it really builds them up. That one, and there's like a velour tubing one that's really good. The NARS Climax is a pretty good mascara too. Sometimes I'll go in with more than one mascara for the bottom lashes just to build them up. Again, just checking, making sure everything looks good. Then I'm just going in with a concealer. This would be like my contour shade. Remember back when concealer lip combos were so in? It's not really what I'm doing today, but I am using a concealer to line my lips just because it's a cool tone shade, and the shade that I have in my go-to lip liner is kind of worn. I'm actually going to be doing a different kind of lip look today. Not a neutral, we're going to do a pinky, and this is, I believe, MAC Powder Kiss. Okay, this is so out of my comfort zone, honestly. I usually just go to like a nudie lip, but this was kind of cute. I might actually replicate her again, but I'm just going in with the Powder Kiss. It feels really nice on the lips too, this lipstick. I feel like I don't always use lipsticks all the time, or the ones I use are usually matte. And then I'm just going in with a butter gloss and topping that, but keeping it in the center, so we're doing like a semi glossy lippy. I think because Valentine's Day is coming up, I was feeling the pink, honestly. But yeah, that is pretty much my ultimate makeup routine. It's pretty easy, mostly concealer based. Obviously you can go in with foundation if you choose to. Sometimes I do. This is just like kind of easier for me.